The moon hung low over the valley, a thin silver crescent casting eerie shadows across the dusty fields surrounding the ranch. When the bandits crept closer, their boots silent against the dry earth, they had heard whispers of easy wealth, of a house abandoned by fortune and misfortune alike. And they thought tonight would be simple, but they didn't know the truth that this was not an empty home, that the woman who lived here was protected in ways that even the valley itself seemed to respect. Mara Ward had inherited the ranch after her father's death, and though she was quiet and appeared fragile from afar, her life had been forged in fire, heartbreak, and long days under the sun. The bandits pushed the old gate open, its hinges groaning like a wounded animal, and crept toward the porch. Mara had been expecting trouble. She had noticed the flicker of torchlight across the western ridge 2 nights ago, and the distant clatter of boots over stones. She moved silently inside, slipping past the creaking floorboards to the hidden panel beneath the staircase where her father had taught her to store tools and, more than tools, secrets. As the bandits tried the front door, jiggling the lock and laughing quietly at the prospect of easy plunder, Mara lit the lantern she had placed there, a single flame dancing like a warning. She didn't move quickly, she moved deliberately, each step measured, each breath silent, listening to their voices. "This place is empty," one muttered. "Ain't nobody here but dust and rats." They laughed, not knowing how wrong they were. Mara watched from above, her eyes sharp, calculating. The rifles in their hands looked heavy, clumsy, but she knew the land better than they knew themselves. As they finally forced the door open, the house groaned, and a sudden gust of wind blew through, extinguishing their torches. In the darkness, Mara struck. She had learned to fight from necessity. Her father had drilled it into her from childhood, saying, "Strength isn't just in your hands, it's in your mind." She moved through the shadows like a ghost, tripping ropes that tumbled barrels over the intruders, sending men sprawling with curses into the dust. A rifle discharged, but not in the way they expected. Mara had anticipated their paths, and a well-aimed shot from the upstairs landing sent one of them tumbling, groaning, and realizing instantly that this woman was no ordinary target. Panic set in. The leader shouted, but Mara's voice cut through the chaos, calm and cold. "You should have left before the night began." The bandits froze, looking around, realizing with a shock that the house itself seemed to fight against them, the floorboards betraying their weight, the shadows blurring into shapes they couldn't comprehend. Mara stepped into the moonlight, filtering through the window, her silhouette strong, her eyes glinting like the edge of a blade. "Now leave," she commanded, "or the land will take what you came for." They hesitated, fear twisting their bravado into desperation. One tried to charge her, but the floor beneath him gave way slightly, sending him sprawling into the barn's side, dust and debris rising in clouds. Within moments, the remaining bandits fled, running through the gate into the dark night, leaving the house standing, quiet and victorious, as if the valley itself had expelled them. Mara exhaled slowly, brushing the dust from her hands, and looked out across the moonlit ranch. Alone, yet utterly unafraid, she whispered to the night, "Some people never learn who lives here." The morning sun stretched across the valley, turning dust to gold and shadows, twisting shapes. But inside Mara's ranch house, the air was thick with tension and secrets that had lain dormant for years. every creak of the floorboards, every gust of wind through the cracked window seemed amplified, as if the house itself was alive, remembering the chaos of the night before. Mara moved quietly from room to room, checking the locks, counting the damage. But her mind was elsewhere, on the things hidden behind walls and under floorboards. Things the bandits would never have imagined. Her father had been a man of foresight, hiding more than just money or weapons. He had stored letters, maps, and strange artifacts that hinted at fortunes long lost, alliances with old Apache families, and a promise that the land itself would protect those who respected it. Mara knelt beside a loose floorboard in the living room, lifting it carefully to reveal a small, iron-bound chest, worn by age but still solid. The chest held papers detailing mining claims her father had never pursued, old deeds that connected their ranch to lands farther west, and a small bundle of gold coins so old they gleamed faintly even in the dim morning light. She ran her fingers over them, feeling the weight of history and the gravity of responsibility settle in her chest. Outside, the valley was quiet now, but Mara knew better than to trust the calm. The bandits who had attacked last night were only the surface of a far deeper threat. Rumors of men following her father's footsteps had persisted for decades. Stories of lost mines, hidden treasures, and dangerous debts that could reach across the desert like shadows. Mara had trained herself for this, for every whisper of danger and every step of greed that might cross her threshold. She checked the rifle carefully, loaded it with precision, and moved toward the back of the house where a hidden staircase led to a basement carved into the rock beneath the foundation. The air there was cool, damp, and smelled faintly of earth and old stone. Torches lined the walls, and as she descended, the glow illuminated strange symbols carved into the rock Apache markings her father had learned to honor. Warnings and blessings intertwined. Mara traced the carvings with her fingertips, feeling a connection to the land and the people who had walked it long before her family arrived. A sudden sound made her freeze, the faint scuff of boots above her head, careful, measured. The bandits hadn't given up. They were circling back, drawn by rumors, greed, or perhaps some invisible pull to the ranch that her father had warned her about. Mara's heart beat steadily, calm but alert. She knew she couldn't let them find the treasures hidden beneath her home, couldn't let them disturb the balance her father had maintained. She readied herself, remembering his words. Respect the land, respect its history, and it will protect you. Forget that, and you'll only bring destruction. The floor above shifted slightly, and she glimpsed the shadows moving, tall, desperate men, unaware of the traps, unaware of the ghostly guardians that Mara had prepared. Her lips curved into a small, confident smile. They had no idea who lived here, or what she was capable of. And by the time the first of them set foot in the basement, Mara Ward would ensure that the ranch's secrets remained exactly that, hidden, protected, and untouchable by greed, fear, or ignorance. The sun had barely risen, but the ranch already felt alive with tension. Every creaking floorboard and rustling curtain a warning that the night's intruders were not gone, they were only circling, biding their time, believing the house vulnerable. Mara crouched behind the thick oak door of the basement, her rifle loaded and her mind racing, knowing exactly how many steps it would take for them to reach her secret cache. Her father's teachings rang in her ears, Use what the land gives, and the land will fight for you. Every trap, every hidden pit, every loose plank had been placed with care, each designed to protect not just gold, but history, and the legacy of a family that had survived storms far worse than these men. The first bandit crept down the main staircase, unaware that Mara had rigged a thin wire across the last step tied to a bucket of sand above. As his boot struck it, the sand poured down over him, blinding him instantly, and he cursed loudly, stumbling back. Mara didn't move. She let the panic grow, listening to the others communicate in low whispers, trying to locate the source of the commotion. They were arrogant, thinking the woman who lived alone would be easy prey. She slipped along the basement walls, her shadow merging with the carved Apache symbols, the flickering torchlight casting moving shapes like spectral guardians. The second bandit, braver, or perhaps more foolish, stepped onto the creaking floorboards that she had weakened, and suddenly the section gave way under his weight, sending him crashing into the lower hallway with a grunt that echoed against the stone. Mara's eyes never left the shadows. She knew where each man was, how they moved, how they thought. The third tried to climb the staircase, but the railing had been subtly loosened. It gave way under his grasp, causing him to slide down in a heap of curses and splintered wood. The remaining two hesitated, unsure now of their plan, fear beginning to replace greed. Mara stepped into view, rifle steady, eyes sharp, her presence commanding and unyielding. "You should have left when you had the chance," she said calmly, her voice cutting through the fear like a blade. "This is my home, and it will protect what belongs here." One of them tried to raise his own gun, but Mara was faster. A single shot rang out, and the bullet smashed the gun from his hand, sending it spinning across the floor. Panic erupted. The bandits realized too late that they had underestimated her, the land, and the traps she had inherited. Mara advanced, moving with the precision of a predator, her boots silent on the wooden floor, her presence larger than any of them imagined. By the time the sun fully rose, the remaining men were trapped in the barn, disoriented, covered in dust and sand, stumbling over splintered beams and barrels she had rigged to fall. Mara stood at the threshold of the house, rifle across her chest, eyes calm but deadly, and let them see her fully for the first time. They froze, knowing they had lost. "Leave," she said, voice steady as the wind through the valley. "And if you ever return, the land itself will ensure you don't walk away alive." Trembling, defeated, the bandits scrambled out into the morning light, leaving the ranch behind, the house standing unbroken, its secrets safe, and Mara Ward, alone but stronger than ever, surveying the valley like a guardian, knowing the desert had once again sided with those who respect it. The sun had climbed high over the valley, scattering shadows and illuminating the ranch with a clarity that felt almost surreal after the chaos of the previous night. Mara stood on the porch, brushing dust from her sleeves, listening to the faint caws of crows circling above the distant cliffs. The bandits were gone, vanished into the desert like they had never existed, but the tension they left behind lingered, a reminder of how fragile safety could be in this untamed land. She walked through the house, inspecting every lock, every beam, every floorboard, making sure nothing had been compromised. Her hands brushed against the carved symbols in the walls, remnants of her father's wisdom, reminders that the land itself had always been an ally to those who respected it. The iron-bound chest remained undisturbed beneath the loose floorboard in the living room. The gold and documents safe, but more importantly, the legacy and knowledge her father had protected were intact. Mara knew that protection was ongoing. Threats could always return, driven by greed or curiosity, and she would need to remain vigilant. She poured herself a cup of coffee, its bitter warmth grounding her in the present, and sat by the window, staring out at the rolling hills of the valley. Memories of last night flickered in her mind, the panic in the bandits' eyes, the way the floorboards had betrayed them, the thunder of barrels and sand, and the moment when she had fully realized the power of patience, strategy, and respect. Mara understood now that surviving the night was not just about defeating intruders. It was about understanding the rhythm of the ranch, the secrets hidden in walls and soil, and the lessons passed down from her father. Every sound, every shadow could be interpreted if one knew how to listen, and she had learned well. Hours passed, and the ranch remained quiet, the morning light softening the harshness of the damage, turning splintered wood and bent railings into patterns of beauty, proof of resilience. Mara stepped outside, letting the wind whip through her hair, her eyes scanning the horizon for any signs of lingering danger. Bandit grazed nearby. His presence a comforting anchor in the vast, empty space. The valley seemed to hum with life, acknowledging her vigilance, her understanding of its secrets. Mara allowed herself a moment of reflection, considering the future she could rebuild, expand, or simply protect what had always belonged to her. But the gold and documents, though valuable, were not the heart of this ranch. It was the land itself, the history embedded in its stones and soil, and the quiet power of a woman who had learned to listen. As the afternoon shadows stretched long and the sun began its slow descent, Mara felt a sense of fulfillment settle over her. She had faced danger, understood her inheritance, and survived not by force alone, but by knowledge, strategy, and respect for the forces at work around her. The bandits were gone, but the lessons remained, etched into the ranch, into her hands, and into her mind. For the first time, Mara allowed herself a deep, unguarded breath, savoring the feeling of safety, accomplishment, and connection to the land that had protected her. She knew the desert would test her again, as it always did, but for now the house stood unbroken, the secrets safe, and the woman who lived within it ready to face whatever came next. And as the valley's wind carried whispers of past and future across the hills, Mara Ward felt at peace, knowing that the ranch, her home, and her legacy were hers to guard, always with wisdom, strength, and unwavering vigilance. Weeks passed, and the valley seemed to settle into a rhythm that Mara had longed to feel, a quiet, steady pulse beneath the rustle of wheat and the whispering wind through sagebrush. The ranch, though still bearing the scars of the bandits' intrusion, stood resilient, a testament to her vigilance and determination. Mara walked among the fields each morning, checking fences, mending gates, and ensuring that the land remained protected, not just from intruders, but from neglect and ignorance. She had come to understand that the true treasure of the ranch was not in hidden gold or documents, but in the knowledge and respect woven into its soil by generations past. Her father's teachings echoed with each step. The land has memory, the land has power, and those who honor it are never truly alone. She paused at the edge of the creek, listening to the water gurgling over stones polished smooth by centuries, and felt a deep connection to the valley that had sustained her family for decades. Bandit grazed nearby, ears flicking at distant sounds, alert but calm, a silent partner in her stewardship. Mara opened the iron-bound chest beneath the floorboard one last time, reviewing the documents and maps that detailed old claims, alliances with Apache families, and forgotten mines. The gold had been removed by the earth itself during the last storm, swallowed back into the desert to prevent greed from corrupting what was sacred. But the knowledge remained, her father's legacy intact, reminding her that true wealth was measured in understanding, respect, and the ability to survive and protect. Visitors occasionally came to the ranch, travelers and neighbors curious about the mysterious woman who had defended her home with cunning and bravery. Mara welcomed those who showed respect, offering guidance, sharing stories of the land's history, and quietly teaching them the lessons she had learned about vigilance, patience, and honor. At night, when the wind swept across the valley and the stars spilled over the cliffs, Mara would sit on the porch with a lantern, reflecting on the storms she had endured both literal and metaphorically, and feel a profound sense of peace. The past, with its bandits, greed, and danger, had been a crucible that forged her resilience. But it no longer held power over her present. Her home, her family's legacy, and the secrets of the land had survived, and in that survival lay her strength. Mara knew that one day others might seek what she had protected, drawn by rumors or ambition, but she was ready. The ranch had become more than a home. It was a living entity, intertwined with her own spirit, demanding respect and granting protection in return. She smiled faintly, letting the wind carry her thoughts across the valley, a silent promise to honor the land, its history, and the lessons it had taught her. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long golden shadows over the fields, Mara Ward stood on the porch, surveying her domain, not as a woman haunted by fear, but as a guardian of legacy, ready to face whatever the desert might bring next, secure in the knowledge that some treasures are never meant to be taken, only understood, respected, and preserved for those who truly belong. The valley lay bathed in the soft glow of early morning, the golden sun spilling over rolling hills and sparkling streams, painting the ranch in hues of fire and amber. Mara Ward moved silently across the porch, her boots sinking into the damp earth, the scent of rain from the previous night still lingering in the air. The house behind her, sturdy and scarred, stood as a testament to battles fought and won, to threats that had come and gone, leaving only lessons in their wake. She paused at the edge of the fields, where wheat swayed gently in the breeze, and listened not just to the wind or the distant cries of birds, but to the rhythm of the land itself. Every stone, every tree, every shadow seemed alive, whispering secrets to those who knew how to hear. Mara had learned to hear them, to interpret the subtle signs, to anticipate danger, and to protect what mattered most. The iron-bound chest, hidden beneath the loose floorboard, remained untouched now, its treasures of gold and documents returned to the earth or stored safely. Its true value not in wealth, but in knowledge, in history, in the lessons it contained. Mara's hands brushed the wooden railing as she stepped down to the ground, feeling the heartbeat of the land pulse beneath her feet. Bandit grazed nearby. Yet alert, sensing her connection to the ranch and its secrets, a silent partner in her guardianship. Mara knew the storms would come, again, bandits, opportunists, or nature itself, but she was ready. The ranch was not merely a home. It was a fortress of wisdom and vigilance, a living testament. She walked through the barn, inspecting the rigged floors and hidden passages, smiling faintly at the clever traps she had inherited and perfected, each one a silent warning to those who underestimated her. As the sun climbed higher, illuminating every corner of the valley, Mara ascended the ridge behind the house, surveying the expanse of her domain. The cliffs, the streams, the fields, and the scattered ruins of old settlements lay before her, a map of past struggles, victories, and secrets. She knew that to outsiders it might appear peaceful, almost ordinary, but those who truly understood the land's whispers would recognize the presence of its guardian. Mara lifted her gaze to the horizon, where clouds gathered, hinting at storms yet to come. And yet she felt no fear, only certainty. She had survived the night of the bandits, the thefts, and the greed, emerging stronger, wiser, and completely attuned to the heartbeat of the valley. Her father's voice, carried on the wind, whispered through the trees, "Respect the land, and it will protect you. Forget that, and you invite ruin." Mara smiled, letting the words settle in her chest. She had become more than a survivor. She was the guardian, the keeper of secrets, the one who understood that some treasures, knowledge, legacy, and respect were priceless and eternal. As the morning light spilled across the ranch, illuminating every fence, tree, and stone, Mara Ward stood tall, a silent sentinel against time and greed, ready for whatever the land and the world might bring. Somewhere between the hills and the sunlit fields, she felt the pulse of history, the continuity of legacy, and the unbroken chain of guardians who had walked this earth before her. And in that moment, as the wind carried the scent of sage, earth, and rain, Mara understood fully the land had chosen her, and she would remain its steadfast protector, the guardian of secrets, until the end of her days, unshaken, unbroken, and unwavering.